Residential Report Writing and Case Studies. Chapter 2, Reporting Basics and Options. Page 1, Chapter Overview. In Chapter 2, we will cover general USPAP requirements for appraisal reporting, including disclosure of extraordinary assumptions and hypothetical conditions. We will also address some of the pitfalls and shortcomings of commonly used residential appraisal report forms. Chapter 2, Learning Objectives. Upon completion of this chapter, participants will be able to identify the basic requirements for an appraisal report and a restricted appraisal report. Define assumptions, extraordinary assumptions, hypothetical conditions, and their corresponding reporting requirements. Identify the two reporting options from Standards Rule 2-2 and the uses and applicability of each. Explain the differences between the two reporting options. Identify and articulate some pitfalls of using forms to report appraisals. End of page. Page 2, Chapter 2, Reporting Basics and Options. USPAP Basics. Standard 2 of USPAP establishes the minimum requirements for real property appraisal reports. As such, these requirements are a good starting point for a discussion of appraisal reporting. An appraiser may provide more information in the report than what is required by Standard 2. However, he or she may not include less. In this chapter, we will go through Standard 2 from beginning to end. While this is not intended to be a USPAP course, a thorough understanding of USPAP reporting requirements is essential for appraisers. In real life appraisal practice, appraisers regularly need to make decisions about report content. How much information to include? What level of detail is sufficient? What to disclose, etc. Producing a USPAP compliant appraisal report is one of the best ways an appraiser can protect himself or herself against liability. Remember that these USPAP requirements are for report content. USPAP does not dictate the form, format, or style of an appraisal report. USPAP does not instruct an appraiser when to use a form, what form to use, or when a form report cannot be used. These decisions are made by appraisers and clients. There are 4 standards, rules in Standard 2. They are numbered 2-1, 2-2, 2-3, and 2-4. We will examine them in order. End of page. Page 3, Standards Rule 2-1. Standards Rule 2-1 provides some basic foundational requirements for real property appraisal reporting. Each written or oral report, real property appraisal report, must: number one, clearly and accurately set forth the appraisal in a manner that will not be misleading. Number two, contain sufficient information to enable the intended users of the appraisal to understand the report properly. And number three, clearly and accurately disclose all assumptions, extraordinary assumptions, hypothetical conditions, and limiting conditions used in the assignment. It is worth noting that this standards rule applies to both written and oral real property appraisal reports. As stated previously, this course is geared primarily toward the requirements for written appraisal reports. End of page. Page 4. What does SR 2-1 mean? Standards Rule 2-1A builds on the ethics rule requirement that our report must not be misleading. We can avoid being misleading in our appraisal reports by making sure that we clearly and accurately set forth the appraisal. Note: in this course, we will often abbreviate standards rule as SR. SR 2-1B states that we must provide our client and any other intended users with enough information to understand the report. That requires us to communicate with clients on their level. Clients and intended users will require more or less information depending on many factors, including, but not limited to, their level of sophistication or experience with appraisals and appraisal reports, the intended use of the appraisal and report, relevant property characteristics, the complexity of the appraisal process, etc. Just as the scope of work varies from assignment to assignment, the level of required detail in a report also varies for different assignments. SR 2-1C states that we must clearly and accurately disclose all assumptions, extraordinary assumptions, hypothetical conditions, and limiting conditions used in the assignment. While you are probably very familiar with limiting conditions, such as those standard limiting conditions found in the various Fannie Mae forms, a brief review of assumptions, extraordinary assumptions, and hypothetical conditions would be beneficial at this point. Before that, though, there will be a short quiz. End of page. Page 5, check your understanding. This quiz has a total of 3 questions. There will be 1 question per page. You must achieve 66% to pass this quiz. Start quiz. Number 1. Standards Rule 2-1 states that assumptions, extraordinary assumptions, and hypothetical conditions must be blank. A. Included in an addendum to the appraisal report. B. Clearly and accurately disclosed. C. Pre-printed on the report form. Or D. Agreed upon with the client to the assignment. I'm going to go B. Clearly and accurately disclosed. Number 2. The same amount of information must appear in every written appraisal report. True or false? I'm going to go false. And lastly, number 3. An appraiser may provide more information and detail in the report than what is required by USPAP Standard 2. True or false? I'm going to go true. Assessment completed. Finish. You passed. You got 100%. So remember, number 1, Standards Rule 2-1 states that assumptions, extraordinary assumptions, and hypothetical conditions must be, you said, clearly and accurately disclosed, and that was correct. Number 2, the same amount of information must appear in every written appraisal report. True or false? You said false, and that was correct. Number 3, an appraiser may provide more information and detail in the report than what is required by USPAP Standard 2. True or false? You said true, and that was correct. Continue.